Good morning, folks. Welcome back. We're at virtue number 9, gentleness. Good morning, Roger.
Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm feeling gentle.
There you go, feeling gentle.
Although we'll learn about how I'm not supposed to interpret that here in just a moment. But it's good to see you back. Thanks for joining us today as we are going through Randy Frazie's book, Think, Act, Believe Like Jesus. This is the second to the last chapter where we are walking through. We walk through those 10 things that Jesus believed, the basic beliefs of the church. Then we walked into the 10 practices, things that Jesus lived out in his daily life. And we're the last third of the book that we're in now is the virtues that Jesus exemplified in his life. And as we talked about last week, these 10 virtues are the very nature of God. And so as today we're on gentleness, we're seeing how gentleness is the nature of God. Gentleness is one of the fruit of the Spirit, and then we are to exemplify that virtue in our daily life and our understanding, and be gentle people. And Frazee begins the book, I think, with an interesting comment that in a nationwide Gallup survey of all of the 30 names of the chapters in these books, those beliefs, those practices, those virtues, gentleness was at the very bottom, ranked the lowest. And he found that in other surveys done by different organizations that gentleness is not a valued virtue in our culture. It's just not. It's not looked on as positive. It's looked on as weak. It's looked on as unnecessary. But it reigns, I think, as obviously in the New Testament and in the Old Testament as a nature of God. God was gentle with the people of Israel throughout, and as the example of what we read about in Jesus in the Gospels. Jesus was a gentle / meek person, and so it's obviously something that we need to look at in our own lives today. Maybe the church needs to be a little gentler. You know, I think we can look at that, and you got to ask why gentleness in our culture is not an esteemed virtue, and I think Randy, I act like I know him again. Randy, my buddy Randy, I think I do after all these weeks know a little bit about him. But Frazee talks about that possibly gentleness is not valued in our culture, in our society today, because we are so stressed out. We are high energy. We are high stress. And when you're high stress, you're high energy, you got a lot going on, you don't have adequate rest, all these other things going on in life, gentleness is kind of the first one that's tossed out. Yeah. And just kind of reminds us that we need to reacquaint ourselves with the concept of gentleness, because as Paul writes in Galatians chapter 5, it is one of the fruit of the Spirit. If we have the nature of God, if we are abiding in the vine, if we are the branches and we are the vine, he is the branches, and we're abiding in him, we're going to bear much fruit. We're going to bear the fruit of the Spirit. That gentleness will be a part of our life. And so it's something that we need to take a look at. And one of the words that Paul uses to describe gentleness in the main passage of this week, which Philippians chapter 4, verse 5, let your gentleness be evident to all, for the Lord is near. So Paul encouraged us to be gentle. And Roger, you love that word, the last passage of Scripture.
Yes, and in fact,
not that I don't.
That's it.
I don't like
he
that
just
one.
wanted to give me the harder Greek pronunciation. That was it. So John was like, "Yeah, I'll set you up on this one." So yes, Randy Frazee gives the example that's from the Greek root word of epikeia, which connotes a thoughtful, considerate, and decent outlook.
Right.
And and Paul uses two Greek roots for different forms of gentleness or meekness throughout the New Testament. And so that was the first one. And it goes back to the verse that John just read from Philippians. And so this one, obviously, thoughtfulness, being considerate, and having a decent outlook. And I was just sitting here thinking, John, of Jesus with the woman at the well. Yeah. So here, he approached her in gentleness, but he certainly was not in any way holding back in
Right.
in his message to her, and bringing out, he let her bring out her own sinfulness,
Right.
and come to the conclusion. But he was gentle in that situation.
Yeah.
And so kind of, the confrontation was there in a way,
Yeah.
but it was a gentle confrontation.
Yeah, and not only that one, you talk about the woman caught in adultery. Jesus again had every right, if we
Right.
wanted to say, an opportunity to not only condemn the woman harshly, but also condemn the men around her that wanted to stone her for what she had been involved in. But again, he was gentle and was non-confrontational. And in his gentleness and in his non-confrontation and the gentleness that was evident to all, as Paul writes, he would ultimately ended up saying to her, "Go and sin no more." And then all the angry mob around him dropped their stones and walked away.
Right.
And so, just again, an example for us.
And the gentleness of the woman at the well brought all of these
Yeah.
others to him.
Went back and
And-
said to the people in her community, "This man knows everything.
Right.
Told me everything about me."
me.
Yeah, that's
And-
cool.
And he had a great ministry in that town.
That's very cool. So, just examples of Jesus's life of gentleness. The other word that the New Testament uses for gentleness is prowess. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I did. Thank you. Who knows? When you talk about Greek, who knows how they said it back then? But
That's right.
but our best English Southern Florida
That's right.
pronunciation is prawi, I think is how you say it. But it's the word I chose this word. Roger chose the other one. I chose this word where prowess is used. I think the first time we see it used is when Jesus says, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." And meek and gentleness, it's the same Greek word that's used throughout the New Testament in a lot of situations for the word gentleness and meekness. And it's also used, the other place that it's used that I think we're aware of, where Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you." We're going to come back, we're going to end with that verse. That word, that Greek word, praoia, is used there as well. It's also used in the fruit of the Spirit. It's used in Paul uses it in Ephesians chapter 4. I want to read it to you. It says, chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, it says, "Then I urge you to live a life worthy of your calling. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing one another in love." I love that. Of all the things Paul could incur as a prisoner of the Lord, sitting in a prison somewhere, probably in Rome, he writes to the church at Ephesus and he says, "I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle." That's his first priority. Where we in our society have lowered humbleness and gentleness to the very bottom of the list according to the Gallup poll surveys, Paul is encouraging the Christians in Ephesus to make that their number one priority. Be humble and gentle. And I think when we look at how Paul used it in the fruit of the Spirit, how he used it in Ephesians, how he described to be gentle and let your gentleness be evident to all in Philippians, how Jesus used the word meek and gentle, how Jesus in the Beatitudes says, "Blessed are the meek, for they'll inherit the earth." I think we need to take a look at that.
I think Paul had great success with that in his own life, being the prisoner. I think he reached his jailers, or he had positives within this prison experience, even though it was the most horrible thing. But because of his gentleness, he had that influence with his guards. Even when he was shipwrecked, and the guards were willing to let him loose and to listen to him.
Right.
So
a great example. Yeah, that he was able to reach a lot of people because he lived out meekness and gentleness. And I think it's interesting to go back and look at actually what that word denotes in the Greek culture, in the Greek language. And one of the things that I love about studying Greek, how we bring it up a lot of times in our studies, is because the Greek language, especially the kind of the Greek that Jesus, that was being spoken when Jesus was alive, it was a word pictures, almost like the Chinese characters in current art paint a picture of the word in that Chinese mindset. The Greek language in the time of Jesus was the same thing. It painted pictures that the people saw, and the word picture of this word that Paul and Jesus used for gentleness and meekness, this praua, is the word of a powerful war horse. If you get this picture, a war horse that a general would ride. That's just a horse that's been in battle. It knows how to fight. It's rippling with muscles, and it's big. It's large. It's powerful looking. Not only powerful looking, but it is a powerful horse. And that horse is pulling a plow, and the harness is being held by a frail old gentleman. And that's the word picture of meek. Here this horse has the power, has the strength to jerk that little old man all over that field, and just do great harm and damage to that little gentleman. But the gentleman is controlling the horse with the harness. And the powerful, strong horse is being led to the left and to the right to be able to plow a field. That's the word for meekness that Jesus had, as we've talked about in several situations. Jesus had the full power of God, but yet he chose to be gentle and meek, to allow the children to sit on his lap, to lovingly confront the woman at the well and the woman caught in adultery, and other examples throughout the New Testament. Had the ability to clear the temple when he wanted to, with no qualms, but he knew when the right time was to use that power. It's immense power under control. And that's the word picture for gentleness. And that's, as I'm reminded, we have the opportunity and the ability to go off the handle at many times, and many times I do it too often. Confessatorily saying that I need to be gentle, that I need to allow God to control me, and to be a meek person and allow him to control me, and knowing when to go a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and not always wanting to use the strength and the ability to clear the temple as Jesus did, but that's power under control.
Even that, I read a neat thing. It was one of Tim Keller's writings, and he was talking about how even that passage with him clearing the temple, but the Greek word for the thong that he put together was actually reeds. I mean, you're not going to hurt anybody with reeds. But then even after that, remember the question that they asked him: by what authority are you doing this? Not by what violence you're doing this, or what strength are you doing this, but what authority? Because he spoke with such authority in clearing out the temple.
That at that point the farmer pulled really hard, and the horse responded appropriately. And not that, but you know what I'm saying. But I think that's that goal that we have. That I can go off. Yeah, I can tell somebody in social media or in person, or and I probably many times have the right to do that, and probably many times need to do that, but I'm choosing to be gentle. I'm choosing to be meek, and I'm choosing to allow God to control my behavior, to not control, but to harness me. To control in a good word, to harness me, to harness my attitude, to harness my thoughts, to harness my behavior, and to be meek and gentle in spirit. Yeah,
then that's under the what difference does it make for the way I live? The Solomon's verse in Proverbs is a perfect answer to that. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So
it's
a good one. And then in that he gives us three things, and these are all kind of more modern thoughts. But how are we gentle? We're thoughtful. We don't move through life like a bull in a china shop, he said. We care about other people along the way. We're considerate. So we do our best to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. Empathy is something that's greatly lacking in our society today, is empathy. And then we're calm. We'll have moments when passion and aggression are right and necessary, which we just talked about with Jesus and other situations. But there's great strength in our conviction when we hold them to quiet confidence.
Right. Yeah. I think an interesting thing that Frazee brings out in this chapter on gentleness is when we talk about the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. I can evaluate myself when I talk about peace. Yeah, I'm a peaceful person. Yeah, I make peace. Yeah, I'm a loving person. I find love. I have self-control. Yeah, I don't fly off. I have joy. I'm a joyful person. A lot of the fruit of the Spirit we can self-evaluate. Mm-hmm. But here in gentleness, Frazee points out that gentleness is not something I can self-evaluate. Mm-hmm. I can think I'm being gentle, but Sarah can say, "No, John, you're not very gentle at all." I can say, Roger, I was gentle today, and Roger's like, "No, you weren't." And it's interesting that gentleness is not something I can self-evaluate. That gentleness is it's necessary for me to be vulnerable and ask the tough question of Roger. Roger, was I gentle in that situation? Yeah. Or Roger, or Roger is going to make his self-determination about my gentleness. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's interesting when Paul writes in Philippians, "Let your gentleness be" what? Evident to all. Yeah. So that it's not me saying, "Yeah, I was gentle there. I really told that guy up. I was pretty gentle with him. I could have gone a whole lot farther." Right. Back to our buddy in middle school, I could have really told him off, but I was gentle. No. I think Paul says, let our gentleness be evident to all people, so that when they look at us, they can say, "Yeah, Roger's a gentle guy."
And that's why I get to come back to my epikeia again.
Yeah.
Epikeia. Anyway, we'll get it right one of these days. But also one of the definitions for that again was about being a mild medicine or being soothing. And so, are you a soothing person, or do you make everybody's stomach churn when you walk in the room? Are you someone that people want to spend time with? I want to spend time with John. I look forward to coming here.
I was wondering.
so this is, so I look forward to Monday mornings and being here. And
me too.
Thank you. So, but yes, John does not make my stomach churn. He's gentle. He's, we get along well, and we have all known those people in our lives where it is a struggle to be around them. Yeah.
I think, and I love that you brought out that word epikeia is that good medicine. It's interesting you bring that up, because I was struggling with an issue one time, and it was a lot of pain in my life. It was in my body, and the medicine the doctor prescribed made me incredibly nauseous, where I came to the point of saying I'd rather deal with the pain than take the medicine that made the pain go away, because it made me nauseous. And I think that word picture connotates again back to that word picture mentality, that the pill that I take is better than the pain itself. Yeah. That being gentle is better than the cause of the problem. So I love that word. Thanks. Yeah. So how do we end it today? How do we end this chapter on gentleness? And I think it comes back again, Roger, to that passage that Jesus talks about in Matthew chapter 11.
Yeah. Love that one, and I'll read it here. But the invitation that Jesus extends is, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light."
Amen.
And that really can be a convicting verse, because do I show in my life, do people see that peace within me, that gentleness, and that is Christ being exhibited in that way? Does my life, is it something that then people would want to say, I want that, because he really is feeling peace and contentment and the gentleness of Christ.
Yeah, and I would say you do exemplify that. Not that this is mutual admiration society today, but I think you do represent a gentle spirit, and I'm honored to be in your presence with that. And I think what Jesus is saying here to us in this passage in Matthew chapter 11, where he says that I am gentle and humble in heart, take my yoke upon you and I'll give you rest. And I think in our fast pace, all stress, no relaxation, everybody's keyed up, everybody's wired, everybody's looking for an argument to get into. It's just everybody's, I think Jesus is coming along in the midst of our society today and say, hey folks, take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in spirit. And when you take my yoke upon you, I'm going to give you some rest. That horse that old man is guiding across that field, plowing those rows, can run full speed and wreak havoc on that field. But as he's being under control by the Spirit, by that old man, he is being beneficial to the ground and reaping a good and allowing the farmer to reap a good harvest. And I think that's what Jesus is saying. Yeah, you can run full speed, you can run at a high pace, you can be high stress, or you can take my yoke.
Right. You can be, in a polite way, tamed.
You can be tamed.
Tamed, where you realize that there is a master that is in control and who is going to treat you very well. He's going to take you back to that barn.
Yeah.
He's going to brush you down. He's going to feed you the good oats.
Right.
And
the promise, yeah, it's a beautiful picture of how we are to live our life under the umbrella, under the authority of God that He is caring for us. And just in closing, again, He says, because I will give you rest. And then in the Beatitude, when Jesus says, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the kingdom of God. The meek are going to be the ones that end up inheriting it all. And not that we want a huge inheritance, but that, to me, that means we're going to be the ones lasting in the end. So, great chapter.
Yeah, it was.
I enjoyed this chapter on gentleness. And I hope today that you will be gentle people. That as the fruit of the Spirit grows in your life, that the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and gentleness will be evident to all. Be wise, be safe, be the church.
Be the church. Have a great week, everyone.
See you.